Good evening, and welcome to what could easily be the most electrifying tennis spectacle we have witnessed all season. If you are a sports enthusiast, if you believe in the impossible, or if you are drawn to stories where the underdog refuses to surrender, then pause whatever you are doing and pay close attention. Because what unfolded in Abu Dhabi just hours ago was not merely a tennis match. It was not simply a victory. It was a revival and a declaration of raw competitive heart that has sent shockwaves across the WTA circuit and left the global tennis community in stunned disbelief. We are talking about Alexandra Eala, the Filipino standout, the 20-year-old rising force who has been steadily ascending the rankings and currently holds a career-best world number 45 position. But today, she did not just climb a ranking ladder, she scaled a mountain of adversity and stared directly into the void of defeat against a seasoned opponent who had the match fully secured, only to rip it back in a way that contradicts logic, probability, and every statistical projection available. Let us establish the backdrop before we dive deeper into the mechanics. This was the round of 16 at the Mubadala Abu Dhabi Open, a high-profile WTA 500 tournament, and across the net stood Alexandra Sasnovich of Belarus, a 31-year-old veteran competitor known for her craftiness, experience, and match-closing instincts. On paper, Eala carried the higher seeding, but Sasnovich possessed the experience advantage, and for the opening hour, that experience was overpowering youth with authority. Eala dropped the first set 2-6 and absorbed heavy pressure, then battled relentlessly to capture the second set 6-4 and level the contest, but the deciding third set turned into a nightmare scenario. At this level of professional tennis, falling behind by a double break in the final set is usually a competitive death sentence where the analytics models shut down, spectators begin heading for the exits, and commentators start drafting the closing narrative. Alexandra Eala trailed 0-4 in the third set with 2 service breaks against her, misfiring on shots, showing visible fatigue, while Sasnovich was operating with precision and momentum. The Belarusian was striking the lines, dismantling patterns, and taking apart Eala's structure point by point, and the situation worsened as the score advanced to 5-2 with Sasnovich serving for the match and holding match point. One swing separated Eala from elimination, and 1 point stood between Sasnovich and victory. The arena grew quiet, the player boxes tensed, and every indicator suggested the outcome was sealed because comebacks from 0-4 and 2-5 down against a veteran on a hard court after nearly 3 hours of play are virtually non-existent. But Alexandra Eala refused that script. What followed over the next half hour qualified as a genuine sporting miracle and a true comeback in every sense of the word. Eala did not just earn a single break back, she dismantled her opponent's confidence and fought back from competitive extinction by saving match point with the fearlessness of a major champion. She surged from 2-5 down to force a tiebreak, and then displayed elite composure under maximum pressure to claim it 7-5 and seal the match 2-6, 6-4, 7-6. The reaction was emotional because the victory was not only about the result, but about the manner in which it was achieved, with tears visible in the stands, disbelief written across her coaching team's faces, and Sasnovich standing stunned as a win that was nearly guaranteed slipped away. Eala transformed a one-sided collapse into a competitive masterpiece, and advanced to the quarterfinals to face world number 11 Ekaterina Alexandrova. Yet the scoreboard is secondary to the deeper narrative centered on grit and unteachable refusal to lose. This type of performance shapes a career identity, and sends a message throughout the locker room that no lead is safe against Alexandra Eala, because even at 5-love or match point down, she remains a threat until the final handshake. Social platforms erupted instantly with reactions describing shock, pride, disbelief, and national celebration. Yet none of those labels fully capture the psychological warfare displayed on court in Abu Dhabi. Recovering from 0-4 in a deciding set requires a mental reset that many veterans cannot execute, let alone a 20-year-old, and she needed to win 6 of the next 8 games with zero margin for error and near-perfect execution. This moment matters because sports mirror life, and today Eala delivered a masterclass in resilience by proving that hopelessness is often just surrender in disguise, and that as long as one ball remains in play, the story is still being written. In the next segment, we will walk through the match sequence by sequence, analyzing tactical shifts, emotional momentum swings, decisive shot selection, and the pressure breakdown on the opposite side, while examining how Eala adjusted forehand depth, modified serve targets late, and drew energy from the strong Filipino support in the crowd to power an improbable turnaround. This is not a simple recap, but a technical autopsy of a miracle and a global announcement performance that stunned the tennis world and produced one of the year's greatest comebacks. Let us temporarily strip away the excitement and examine the objective reality that produced this turning point, because to measure the scale of this comeback, we must first understand the competitive environment surrounding it. The calendar reads February 2026, and the WTA Tour is in its Middle East stretch, widely recognized as one of the most physically demanding segments of the schedule where court speed is high, conditions are punishing and the draw quality is unforgiving. The Abu Dhabi surface rewards first strike tennis and exposes hesitation instantly, and Alexandra Eala entered the event holding a personal best ranking of world number 45, a milestone that represents years of grinding progression through lower-tier circuits and qualifying rounds. Not long ago she was battling through ITF events, and now she is a direct entrant into WTA 500 tournaments, which changes how opponents view you because you are no longer treated as a novelty challenger but as a legitimate threat and a marked target. Across the net stood Alexandra Sasnovich, a 31-year-old Belarusian veteran with deep tour mileage, elite wins on her resume, and a disruptive style built to dismantle rhythm players. She strikes flat, redirects pace effortlessly, varies direction with minimal warning, and specializes in breaking opponents' timing patterns, which makes her a dangerous matchup for someone like Eala who prefers structured rally construction. Her ranking near 109 did not accurately represent her ceiling because her peak level resembles a top 50 player, and in this contest she performed at a top 10 standard for a large portion of the match. The opening phase was rough for Eala as she appeared heavy in movement and slightly late on preparation, whether due to nerves, scheduling, or match tension, while Sasnovich started aggressively and imposed immediate pressure. The Belarusian tactical plan was obvious and effective: attack the second serve, step inside the baseline, and compress the rally length. Eala's serve, typically a platform shot to organize points, malfunctioned early with a first serve percentage hovering near 50%, which against an early taking returner is an invitation to be attacked. Sasnovich repeatedly moved forward, cut off reaction time and forced rush contact, and the 2-6 first set scoreline accurately reflected the imbalance as Eala's forehands drifted long, backhands clipped the tape, and frustration showed in her glances toward the coaching box. Sasnovich stretched the court laterally, exposed movement gaps and closed exchanges at the net, creating the appearance of a routine veteran victory trajectory. But one defining trait of a Rafael Nadal Academy graduate is competitive stubbornness, and Eala does not abandon matches. The second set began with a clear strategic adjustment where she stopped trying to overpower and instead aimed to outlast and outmaneuver. She increased forehand topspin, added margin, pushed contact points deeper, and introduced higher looping balls to disrupt Sasnovich's flat strike zone. The rallies became scrappier and more physical, not visually elegant but strategically effective, and she secured an early break, surrendered it, then broke again at 4-all. The decisive moment arrived at 5-4 when serving for the set she faced a break point that would have reset parity, and she responded with a fearless inside-out forehand winner that grazed the line and preserved advantage before closing the set 6-4. The crowd energy surged, Filipino supporters grew louder, and momentum appeared to tilt. The expectation was that she would now control the decider, but the match script twisted again. Instead of building on momentum, she opened the third set with a dramatic energy dip, double faulted to concede an immediate break, and then spiraled through a sequence of loose points and rushed decisions that produced a 0-4 deficit. This scoreboard state is psychologically brutal because after investing everything to level a match, falling behind immediately in the decider can feel emotionally crushing and physically draining. Her shoulders dropped, her pace between points slowed, and commentary voices began suggesting she had exhausted her reserves. Sasnovich played freely, struck clean winners, and needed only routine holds to finish the job. Eala managed a hold for 1-4 to stop the slide. Sasnovich extended to 5-1, Eala fought to 2-4, and then Sasnovich reached 5-2 and stepped forward to serve for victory. This game will live in highlight reels for years because it marked the pivot between inevitability and improbability. Sasnovich showed visible tension but earned match point, while Eala crouched low in the return position with a changed expression that signaled resistance rather than resignation. The serve went wide, Eala stretched and floated a defensive slice deep, and a long rally unfolded where she retrieved relentlessly and refused low-percentage risks. Sasnovich attempted a backhand line strike under pressure and clipped the net cord, losing the point and the match opportunity, and that single deflection acted like a door opening a fraction before being kicked fully open by belief. Eala broke serve to reach 3-5, held with authority including a wide ace to reach 4-5, and transferred the psychological weight entirely onto Sasnovich, who now had to serve for the match again while carrying the memory of the lost chance. Competitive sports recognize a phenomenon called fear of finishing, where awareness of victory tightens execution, and signs of that tension appeared immediately as Eala attacked returns, stepped forward, and accelerated pace. She earned break points amid deafening crowd support, and Sasnovich double faulted under pressure, leveling the set at 5-all, and confirming that the comeback had become real rather than theoretical. At 5 games all the contest transformed from a tennis match into a nerve endurance trial because momentum had completely reversed direction, and the emotional burden now rested squarely on Sasnovich's shoulders while Eala played with liberated aggression. What had looked finished 15 minutes earlier now felt wide open, and the crowd sensed the shift instantly as every return and every defensive retrieval drew escalating noise. Eala held serve with conviction for 6-5 using heavier spin, deeper targets and smarter shot tolerance, and the pattern was clear that she was no longer rushing to finish points but constructing them with deliberate patience. Sasnovich stepped up to serve to force a deciding tiebreak, and the tension was unmistakable in her preparation routine, longer pauses, deeper breaths and more ball bounces than earlier in the match. The rallies in that game were brutally contested with extended exchanges that tested balance, footwork and emotional control, and Eala repeatedly redirected pace crosscourt to stretch the geometry before sneaking depth down the line to reset positioning. At deuce, the pressure peaked when a second serve sat up, and Eala attacked with a heavy forehand that pushed Sasnovich behind the baseline and forced a defensive reply short in the court, and Eala moved forward to finish with a controlled volley that demonstrated courage under maximum stress. Breakpoint arrived and the stadium volume rose to a roar, and on that decisive rally Eala absorbed 2 aggressive strikes, reset with a looping neutralizer, and then ripped a backhand through the open lane to complete the break and the comeback, sealing the set 7-5 and the match after trailing by multiple games and facing match point. The immediate reaction told the entire story because Eala dropped to the court in emotional release, while Sasnovich stood still for a moment processing how victory had slipped away. This outcome will be analyzed repeatedly not because of shock value alone, but because it provides a tactical and psychological case study in adaptive problem solving under pressure. The statistical contrast reinforces the narrative because although Sasnovich produced more outright winners, she also accumulated a damaging total of unforced errors in the closing stretch, while Eala maintained tighter margins, higher rally tolerance, and superior breakpoint conversion efficiency when it mattered most. Her serve percentages improved late. Her second serve locations became more intentional, and her return depth increased, which prevented Sasnovich from dictating first ball control. From a developmental standpoint, this performance signals competitive maturity because younger players often attempt low-percentage hero shots when behind, whereas Eala chose disciplined construction and incremental scoreboard pressure. Coaches frequently describe this as scoreline management, the ability to treat each point as a separate problem rather than emotionally reacting to the overall deficit, and she executed that principle with impressive composure. The broader tour implications are meaningful because this was not merely an isolated escape, but a demonstration that her game style translates against experienced disruptors who specialize in breaking rhythm. Her left-handed patterns, heavy topspin forehand, and height variation created discomfort and prevented flat hitters from setting their preferred contact zones, which is a repeatable strategic template rather than a lucky streak. Analysts will also highlight her physical resilience because long defensive rallies at high tempo drain even seasoned athletes, yet her movement efficiency improved rather than declined in the closing games. That endurance suggests conditioning gains and smarter energy distribution across sets, 2 indicators of professional growth. The psychological layer may be even more important because saving match point changes an athlete's internal reference point for future crises, replacing doubt with lived proof of survival. Players often speak about needing one signature escape to unlock belief, and this victory could function as that catalytic moment in her career timeline. The reaction across media and fan communities reflects that interpretation as discussion has shifted from labeling her a promising prospect to recognizing her as a dangerous opponent in any draw slot. Importantly, this result should not be framed only as Sasnovich collapsing because doing so ignores the tactical pressure that produced the errors, and forced mistakes are frequently misclassified as unforced when scoreboard tension and shot quality compress decision windows. Credit belongs to the competitor who created the discomfort, extended the rallies, and demanded extra balls under stress. Looking forward, opponents will study this match film to understand how Eala constructs comebacks, how she adjusts spin profiles, and how she sequences patterns when trailing, and that visibility is both an advantage and a new challenge because surprise gradually disappears as reputation grows. Sustaining momentum will require continued serve development, first strike efficiency, and net finishing confidence, but the foundation displayed here is unquestionably tour caliber. The Abu Dhabi crowd witnessed more than a routine early round contest because they saw competitive character revealed in real time, and that is why the atmosphere felt electric rather than ordinary. Tennis history is filled with matches where rankings predicted one story and resolve authored another, and this encounter belongs in that category of momentum-defying performances. If this trajectory continues, discussions about her ceiling will move from speculative optimism to evidence-based expectation. That is the lasting takeaway from this showdown. Resilience combined with tactical intelligence can overturn probability when execution and belief align at the decisive moments.